Fight against Islamic terror, the U.S. military dropping the, quote, mother of all bombs on terrorists in Afghanistan. 36 ISIS fighters were killed. This is the biggest non-nuclear weapon ever used in combat. Come on in, Congressman Lee Zeldin, Republican from New York and a major backer of our veterans. Your initial reaction to the MOAB?
I think it shows a strategic shift, way the conversation towards the end of President Obama's term in office would go between the Oval Office, the president, and military leaders. The question that would be asked is, what do you need in order to not lose? How do we increase your chances of not losing in Afghanistan? Well, what we're seeing right now is that coming from President Trump, coming from the Oval Office, the conversation with key military leaders in Afghanistan and the region is, what do you need in order to win? And it sounds like a simple point I'm making, but it actually is a very real strategic shift in thinking, which results in additional flexibility given to our CENTCOM commander, given to General Nicholson, given to Secretary Mattis, and we're using an asset that causes a whole lot of destruction to tunnels and caves relied on by ISIS fighters, death delivered to ISIS fighters, giving a greater chance of success in Afghanistan. It was a great move.
So, I mean, and to boil it all down, there's a mission statement right there before, because it felt like a rudderless ship under President Obama. It was so feckless that no one knew what was going on. And already I know we're all hearing about a surge in morale and the esprit de corps amongst our military men and women.
Yeah, so before, where it would be, what do you need in order to have a low risk, a medium risk, or a high risk of not losing? Now, you have requests coming from General Nicholson of what he needs in rules of engagement, of assets, of personnel, and it's not much more that General Nicholson is asking for, but what he is able to do is provide greater assistance to the Afghan government. Our military around the world we're able to bolster our efforts and bolster NATO and other partnerships. And it doesn't just allow American service members and coalition forces to have a greater chance of success, but it's also delivering a certain level of destruction to the enemy where you're knocking them on their heels there. We are either going to fight this enemy at home or we are going to fight and eliminate them overseas. And President Trump is reinforcing a commitment to ensure that where they are right now, that this is the end of the battle on their heels and they're not going to spread to the U.S. So it's great leadership.
I want to switch topics here because there's a Wall Street Journal report saying that President Trump's relying on the advice from these CEOs and these major business leaders that he keeps missing, and consequently, they've been pushing him further to the left. Do you see it that way, Congressman?
I see it as the president is going to speak to the subject matter experts on all of the key issues in front of him to ensure that he has all of his facts to make the best possible decision. And as you get into tax reform, it's helpful to speak to CEOs who could talk about the practical impacts on net importers, net exporters, on tax policy, GDP, the dollar, the policies that you'll see in other countries elsewhere, what kind of ramifications it can have towards American companies and foreign companies and bringing liquidity back to the U.S. And there's so much more to talk about.
Yeah, but with all due respect, there's no doubt that there's certain expertise they bring, but they also are protecting their turf. And you have to wonder, because the heartland of this country elected President Trump to sort of push back against these guys and say, maybe we don't want a weak dollar so that your overseas sales are worth more money. And maybe we don't want the Exim Bank to exist. We don't think the biggest corporations in America should be getting this sort of corporate welfare. Maybe we want you to focus on us, not a border adjustment tax. So that's what I'm concerned about. The idea that if these guys can, bring their arguments to the White House and we shift what people thought they were going to be getting.
Well, for one, I certainly wouldn't want anyone either on the right or the left to underestimate the amount of loyalty and support that President Trump's voters have for him, and the amount of both not just praying, but also wanting to assist him to ensure that this president is successful. Now, as far as President Trump himself goes, obviously it's really important that he understands, and I'm confident that he would, that the people he's speaking to about their own businesses and what they need in order to be successful, you know, it's those men and women speaking on behalf of their businesses, and the president needs to make the best decision for America,
right.
understanding that improving the business climate is the way to create more good-paying private sector jobs to improve the American economy. And so if you're watching, you know, this show and you're a hardworking, blue-collar, middle-income American struggling to make ends meet, I think it's important to know that the President of the United States is speaking to all of these people to try to develop the policy that's going to help the American economy and the American worker. That's what's most important.
Right. And also they want to know, though, that these folks are going to have more skin in the game and not just have things the way they want, because the way things that they want got us to where we are right now. But, Congressman, thank you so much. Always appreciate your service and you coming on and spending time with us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Charles.